So tomorrow I fly out to Japan, and that marks the end of my 2 month stay here in Bali. I loved Bali, it was awesome, but I'm pumped and excited for Japan. We're actually going to go set up there, and I'm going to live and work for a while. And I love Japan. I had such a good time when I was there last year, and I love the culture, and I'm so excited to go back. But this trip actually means a lot more to me than just a simple travel and an exciting, time in my life. 12 months ago, I went through one of the most difficult periods of my life and faced some of the most challenging uh, business issues, financial issues, and there was a point where I almost lost it all. Like, and I have footage of all of this, because I've been documenting my journey for the last couple of years. The reason why it relates to me going to Japan now is because I sit here and I just think about how much can change in 12 months. And so much has changed in 12 months. I went from almost losing it all to having a business with 10 full time staff that's profitable, that's hit over 7 figures in annual recurring revenue, and a business that is, that has problems, but they're good quality problems compared to the problems that I was facing last year. And there's two major lessons or takeaways that I want to quickly just share with you, and I will expand on this in future videos, maybe when I'm actually in Japan. And the two major lessons I will share after I share an anecdote to lay the foundation and give you the context so that you really, truly understand them rather than me just saying them. So the first thing I'll say is, at the time of when I was going through all these challenges, or just prior to me going through these challenges, leading up to this trip that I had scheduled last year to Japan, I had problems in my business. And the problems were just like, not hiring the right salesperson, like my team wasn't converting leads at a good enough percentage, our ads weren't performing that well. And I was solving these problems every single day. And at the time, I wasn't grateful for these problems. We were dealing with some, initial startup growing pain, and I wasn't grateful. Like I was a really ungrateful person. I was frustrated and annoyed at every issue that I had. And then I faced a problem or a series of issues that took place that were outside of my control that almost shut me down. I was faced with business death. Like, I can't emphasize, it wasn't just like a bad month. There was situations that took place that threatened the existence of my business. And I went from, running this startup, this thing that was my baby that I had such big plans for, to facing the real, real genuine threat of having to shut it down. And I just couldn't imagine doing that. It was incredibly challenging and incredibly difficult. And I remember waking up when I was dealing with these issues that weren't just your typical business problems. They were like bigger than them, like outside of them. It's random stuff that you just never would expect you to have to deal with, but was relevant to the niche and industry that I was in. It's like the unforeseen challenges. And I remember thinking to myself, God, just give me my old problems back. Man. Oh man, that hits deep. Because, I felt that feeling multiple times. God, just give me my previous problems back. So I remember thinking that. I remember thinking I would kill to just go back to dealing with the issues that I was dealing with before. And that just, I can imagine it would relate to so many areas of life, especially if it's like, say, family members or friends or whoever it is. Like, let's take a person that you love but you have problems with, right? And then let's say something tragic happened. You would have that thought, like, I'm happy to deal with these problems, just keep them around. Like, I want to go back to when I had these issues. So the same thing with business, when you're dealing with, problems and you think it's, you blow these issues and your problems and your challenges in your business out of proportion, and then you actually get faced with like a serious issue. You think to yourself, just give me my old problems back and I'll be grateful. I'll be grateful again. And that was the first lesson. So now when I move forward in my life and I'm faced with business challenges, which I'm faced with every single day, I always say I'm grateful for these problems because I know it could be a lot worse. Now the second lesson was a lesson that I discovered when I was sitting at the airport waiting to board my flight to Japan. So the issues began to take place around a week prior to our scheduled trip, and I thought I'd be able to handle it before I went. And the opposite happened. It actually got a lot worse, way worse than I could have imagined right before we were about to leave. So obviously I had a decision to make to either stay and sort the problem out or still go on my holiday. And I decided to go. So I remember I was at this airport and I was on my laptop and I was just writing down notes of like everything that was happening and what I was going to do about it. And I just found myself becoming a victim. And I started asking myself questions like, why me? Why is this happening to me? Why was it when I start this new venture that I'm so excited about, that has so much potential, like this thing happens? Like I did not, it's like, I don't know, it felt like it was so outside my control and I was a victim and there's just, what am I going to do now? Like, how am I going to handle this? And what if, it gets worse? And I just kept thinking about all these crazy scenarios, and I was feeling sorry for myself, and I was operating out of fear and just being afraid and scared and stressed. And then, with God's grace, a message was delivered to me. Somehow, I had a thought, and I said to myself, if I was living back in the day where there was like a threat of war, right? What kind of general would I be? What kind of leader would I be? Well, I'd like to think I'd be the aggressor. I would be like, you want to take the war to me? I'm going to make you regret the day that you did that, And just instead of being the chase to become the chaser, instead of being the prey to become the predator. And I started to like imagine this idea that I was at war and I don't want to be this like farmer. And I know it's crazy, but I imagined like it's like, instead of being this farmer who, people are coming in and they're just like, burning my crops and killing my family, and I'm going to go to them. I know they're coming, I'm going to go to them. I'm going to become the aggressor. And then it just flipped this switch in my mind where I stopped being a victim and instead I became the aggressor. And I've maintained that attitude, or I've at least tried to maintain that attitude since that day. Anytime I face an issue in my business, whether it's as small as scaling ads and our lead costs increase, or hiring people and losing them, or having to let them go because I made the wrong decision, or we get a negative review, whatever it is, any challenge that takes place, I do my best to maintain this mindset, this framework that I am the aggressor here. I am the aggressor. I am going to win this war that I'm in. And if I was at war, what would I do and how would I act? And like I said, without getting into like the details of how I survived what I survived, all I can say is this mentality of going to war was the reason that it helped me. Because when you become the person who is on the attack, you start to think totally different to the person being attacked. You start to have more options, right? Being attacked is wait and see what damage other people can have on you. But when you go to war, your options become, endless. You can anticipate their attack. You can prepare for it. You can get ahead of it. You can go for them first. You can lay traps, and all of these things in some way, shape, or form can be related to business challenges. So that's what I did, and it's what got me out of that situation and helped me survive. And I've made it to the other side. So now I get to go to Japan, and go to Japan where my business is in the best place it has ever been. We've survived. If you just tell me I was going to survive it, I would have been happy, let alone 12 months later to be in the position that I'm in now. So I really hope that this video finds someone at a moment in their life where they need to hear it, because I know I would have found it really valuable. So I'll leave you with this, just to summarize. Number one, be grateful for the current problems that you have, because one day you might be praying for them to come back. And number two, when you're faced with business death or a massive challenge, something outside of your control that moves you in the direction of wanting to think like the world's out against you and you're a victim and you're being attacked, be a general at war. Don't be a farmer. Go to war. Flip that mentality from being the chase to doing the chasing. And finally, don't underestimate what 12 months can really do. You could be living a totally different reality in 12 months. So hang in there is my final message. All right. That's it. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you have a comment, something you want to share, a question you want to ask, I respond to everyone. So feel free to drop it in the comment section below. Oh, and by the way, thank you for 13 subscribers. I really appreciate it. See you guys.